This is a banana. This is an organic banana. You've probably been taught that the organic banana is more expensive because it's healthier, and if you believe this, you have been lied to. The real reason they're more expensive has a lot more to do with the laws and regulations. Let's go back 12,000 years ago, when humanity was just starting to explore the art of farming. Everything they were growing would perfectly fit today's organic standards. No pesticides, no chemicals, just good old-fashioned farming practices. Back then, there were no genetically modified organisms even on the scene. However, that would change in the sense that early farmers were already pioneers in selective breeding, pairing up the best livestock and crops to preserve the traits they loved and ditch the ones they didn't. It's a bit like subscribing to Digestible and other channels you enjoy while ignoring the rest. It turns out that even way back then, humans couldn't resist the urge to tweak nature a little. Of course, let's be clear, ancient farmers weren't messing around with plant DNA like modern scientists do in labs. If there had been any mad scientist vibes in those fields, who knows what kind of glow-in-the-dark carrots, singing potatoes, or other crazy crops we'd be munching on today. Over the centuries, humans have meticulously shaped nearly every plant and animal we now take for granted. Go back far enough, and wheat was little more than grass with a tiny seed from the Fertile Crescent. Apples come from a small, sour fruit in Central Asia called this. And Brussels sprouts were cultivated in Belgium, the capital of which is Brussels. But they're technically the same species as kale, broccoli, cabbage, and cauliflower. And while early farmers weren't dousing their fields in modern pesticides, they did have their own bag of tricks. Think sulfur, arsenic, anything to keep those pesky bugs and weeds at bay. Fast forward to the 20th century and entered the era of industrial-scale chemical warfare against weeds and plants. Post-World War II, the Green Revolution kicked into high gear, bringing with it chemicals like glyphosate, aka Roundup. These chemicals revolutionized agriculture, but also sparked debates about long-term health and environmental impacts. Today, stroll down any grocery store aisle, and you'll encounter two distinct choices: organic and non-organic. While the precise definition of organic varies between countries and continents, with Europe generally being much stricter than the US, a couple of principles remain the same. Organic produce is grown without synthetic chemicals or GMOs, following strict environmental and sustainability guidelines. But why the price difference? It's not just about health benefits, it's about meeting rigorous standards and certifications that ensure every step of the organic farming journey is as natural and sustainable as possible. This brings us to the first of 7 considerations in organic regulations and why they make organic food so expensive. This is John, Farmer John. He's an organic farmer. Despite what you might imagine, organic farming isn't just about throwing seeds on the ground willy-nilly and hoping for the best. It's a strategic dance involving a myriad of factors. While done correctly, he produces incredible food. It also means the price tag on the shelves is quite a bit more damaging to the average shopper's bank account. For starters, John's organic farming approach is about as labor-intensive as you can get. Instead of relying on chemicals, organic farmers like John have to get hands-on with their crops. That means lots of weeding and pest control that can't be handled with a simple spray. Instead, you need machines or people to do the weeding for you, and that's quite a lot more costly. At the end of the season, after harvesting, most regular farmers simply plant the same crops in the same fields. This is known as a monoculture. Under natural circumstances, the depleted soil would struggle to grow as high of a yield, and the harvest volumes would drop off over the years. So, regular farmers coat the ground with chemicals to help the crops grow. While this means higher immediate yields, the topsoil suffers tremendously. Instead of this, organic farmers like John use crop rotation to balance the nutrients taken from and returned to the soil. These sacrifices are worth it when you consider the long-term benefits for his farm and the environment, but they don't do much for John's piggy bank. So, organic farming takes a lot more work. But that's not the only reason why organic farming is more expensive. Now imagine John sitting in a literal mountain of paperwork, with enough files and documents to keep him busy for days. That's what organic certification looks like. It's not just a formality, it's a strict set of rules and inspections that ensure everything from seed to sale meets organic standards. John legally has to document every step of his farming journey. It's like being audited by Mother Nature herself. And, as we all know, time is money. But also, money is money. John has to pay for a number of these licenses and compliance certificates. Then, it's time for that all-important chat about yields. John has said goodbye to synthetic fertilizers and pesticides as an organic farmer. That's fantastic for the soil and for the planet in general, but it usually means smaller harvests and longer growing seasons. It's quality over quantity for John. His veggies might not be the biggest on the block, but they sure are packed with flavor and nutrients. They're like the underdogs of the vegetable kingdom. Small, but delicious enough to make the big guy jealous. So many jokes there. But think about it. John has expended more effort for what most average people consider to be a smaller return on his investment. He has no choice but to charge more. Once those beauties are ready for market, the journey is not over. Organic produce needs special handling and storage to maintain its integrity. For instance, organic produce must be transported separately from regular food to prevent contamination. Also, without artificial preservatives, John has to depend on selling everything fresh or turning to natural preservative techniques like freezing, canning, pickling, dehydrating, salting, vacuum packing, and so on. Separate handling, specialized storage, it all adds up to ensure that John's produce arrives at your table as fresh and delicious as possible. That's wonderful, but it's yet another cost that someone has to absorb. But it's not all challenges. Organic farming also means creating habitats for beneficial insects and wildlife, promoting biodiversity, and reducing the farm's environmental footprint. It's like a mini ecosystem out here. Birds fly, insects pollinate, and the smell of freshly cut grass fills the air. Everyone has a role to play in keeping things in balance. It's idyllic, right? Except that some of those creatures might tend to snack on his produce. Oh, and also organic certification schemes are probably forcing John to pay out of his own pocket to develop those habitats for those creatures. Sure, they'll come with an overall benefit to his farm and the area in the long run, but again, they don't do much for his cash flow right now. Organic food contains no artificial preservatives, so you'll probably be eating relatively locally and in season. There's no cost saving from bulk shipping associated with regular food. But then, at the end of the day, there's something special about knowing where your food comes from and the care that goes into growing it. There's still heated debate about how harmful pesticides and GMOs are or aren't, as well as how the newer nature-mimicking genetic engineering process fit into our food production setup. Still, no one questions John's commitment to producing high-quality, healthy food. John has to abide by all these rules and regulations just to have the word organic on his packaging. It will inevitably cost somebody quite a lot, and that's why the organic food at your local grocery store is a bit more expensive. But hey, while organic produce might cost a bit more, for John and the people willing to pay extra, it's worth every penny. Ultimately, the biggest impact on John's success as an organic farmer comes down to far more than his growing techniques, marketing, outreach, and organic certifications. The most significant impact on the cost of organic food: geography. For example, European customers generally demand more organic food, increasing a farmer's return. Around 9% of European farmland is dedicated to organic farming, compared to less than 1% in the United States. Combined with subsidies, the already more stringent regulations on regular farming, and the almost complete absence of GMOs, Europe could be considered a much safer place to be an organic farmer. However, the US market for organic produce is rapidly growing, and this is likely to benefit both local farmers and customers with increased profit and broader availability. Can planet Earth function with solely organic food production? Perhaps, perhaps not. For now, both organic and non-organic are here to stay. So, the next time you hesitate over that slightly more expensive organic apple, remember John, all his hard work, and how, like any farmer, he spends so much on feeding you that he doesn't make any money for himself. Sad, but kinda true. Anyways, bye.